Hi, it's Stephen here at Bland Designs, and today I want to show you how to create a background page that you can customize for whatever theme or color scheme that you might be using on your scrapbooks. All of the products I've used here are all Tim Holtz's products. His ink pads, distress stain, and his distress sprays, which is a new product, plus his rubber stamps and his stencils. Now you can see on this one, it's a series of layering, and I used a Christmas theme. So some of this is his stencils, some of it is his rubber stamps, and then his color pads. Here's a Halloween scheme, again using a similar method, but I used his Halloween word stencil for the background. This one's sort of a steampunk look, featuring his rubber stamps with the gears and the light bulbs and things like that. And this last one, I actually attempted yesterday to create a video to show you how to create this, and then my camera decided to shut itself off, which I'm still playing with. I don't know why it wants to do this. So I'm hoping today I've solved that problem. But here, again, you can see that I've used a combination of his products and his rubber stamps to create this effect. So, in order to do this, all you need is a plain piece of 12 by 12 white cardstock. That's all I'm using. And I'm going to lay down a background layer first. Now, I'm doing a lot of layering with this technique, and the reason being is this is sort of an art journal kind of technique that I'm using, where you build layers. So first of all, I want to cover the whole background in some basic colors. And the colors that I'm going to be using today are walnut ink, wild honey, fire brick, red. Okay? But I'm actually not going to use the ink pads for this method. I'm going to get my acrylic block out, and I'm going to use his stains. So I have his wild honey, fire brick, red, and walnut stain. Now, you can start from darkest to lightest or lightest to darkest. It doesn't really matter for this technique. These are very fluid. Now, you can do the same technique I'm about to show you using the ink pads. But with those, you need to spray a little water onto this before you can put the image down. With these, you don't need to use any water. So I'm going to start with the fire brick red, and I'm just going to put it across my acrylic block about a third down. And then I'm using wild honey. I'm just putting it on. It doesn't matter. And I'm putting on a fairly generous amount. You notice that it all beads up. And then turn it over and smoosh it. There's a technical term. Pull it up, and you've got that. And I'm going to do it again. In fact, I'm going to do it many times. Okay, so we're continuing on across. Get the right colors here. Okay. Red, wild honey. Oops. Now, I'm not that concerned about how it's looking on here. Oh, guess what? Just mixed up my colors. Okay, no biggie. And we got a spot over here, spot there, spot there. And I'm just kind of stamping off. Okay. Now, once I have that on here, I should probably give it a little bit of a dry, but I want to clean up my acrylic block first. So baby wipe does the trick. Okay, we've got that cleaned up. And then we're just going to give this a little bit of a dry with a heat gun. Now I know there's still some white showing here, and that's okay because this is the first layer. We're going to put a second layer on this, and as we build each layer, the white is going to fill in. I'm kind of liking the way this looks right now, and you know, I could stop right here and this would make a great background paper for whatever. But I'm not going to stop because I'm going to show you how I'm going to build layers here. Okay, I think we're pretty much dry enough now. Alright, and you may have noticed that I'm using a blue mat, and the reason being is I usually use my Tim Holtz brown craft mat, which I love. It's a great mat. Everything comes right off it. But I discovered this one by accident when I was ordering something for a customer at the store. And I ordered this by mistake, and it's made out of silicone. And it has a heat resistance of up to 395 degrees Fahrenheit. And it cleans up really well. I think better than the Tim Holtz craft mat. And the other thing is, you notice this is not moving all over when I'm wiping it down. Because it's silicone, it sticks to whatever work surface you're using, which I really like that as well. It's also slightly bigger, I think, than the Tim Holtz one. I'm not really sure. I haven't measured them, but I think this is 15 by 18, which gives me a little bit more working surface. Okay, next layer I'm going to lay down is I'm going to take one of Tim Holtz's stencils right here, and I'm going to just put it down, and I think I'm going to use the walnut ink pad for this. So I get out my walnut ink pad, and you notice I have all of my ink applicators marked what they are because I've actually got his spinners, and I have one for every color. There's 48 colors, so I don't have to keep changing the little pad on them. And the spinner looks cool and keeps everything at my fingertips. So get this inked up well, and then we're just going to pounce it, rub it a little bit. I'm not being too careful here as to, you know, filling in every gap. I just want to create some texture. And I'm going to go all over it. Some parts are going to be darker than others, some will be lighter, and that's not a problem. This gives it a little bit of texture, which I like. And you notice the white parts are becoming a little bit more filled in as well. And I think I better put a little bit more up here. Okay, that should do it. Okay, so now we've got a little bit more texture to this. Okay, what's next? Alright, now I'm thinking I might want to use some sprays on this. So this is where things can get a little dangerous because you can get a little carried away with the sprays. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow to it, the Wild Honey Distress Spray. So shake it up well. This has the same properties as Distress ink pads and stains. They're all water soluble. The one thing though, when you spray out of this bottle that you're going to notice, it's going to splatter. It's not like some sprays that come out in a fine mist. This is going to splatter. That's on purpose. He created this way to create the distress look. So let's give it a shot. Okay, enough of that. I like that. But you know what else? I think I'm going to add a little bit of the Fire Brick Red as well. Okay, enough of that. Now, if you didn't like what you've done with this or you thought it was too heavy, you could go ahead and take a baby wipe and just blot here and there. Remember, these will react to water, but you can get some neat effects by just doing that. And it's time to give it another bit of a dry because this is another layer. So we've done 3 layers now. First layer was with the Distress stain on the acrylic block. Second layer was Distress ink in a pad format using the stencil. And the stencil I used, by the way, was the burlap one, THS 007. And then I used the Distress sprays. He does not have every one of his colors in the distress sprays yet, but I'm sure he will have eventually. Okay, I think that's a good enough dry for now. Yep. So now I think I'm going to go to his rubber stamps. This one I really love. I use this one a lot. It looks like coffee stains or bottom of a water glass or something like that. And I think for this I'm going to use a darker color. I could use black, but I think in this case I'm going to use the walnut stain. And I'm just going to ink this up good. And just randomly stamp it in spots. Give it a good one. Another advantage of this blue mat that I'm using is that it gives a little bit of a spongy background when you're stamping, which the Tim Holtz craft mat does not because it's very thin. This is not that thick, but it's a little thicker, and it just gives you a little bit more oomph. So you see I'm just adding, and I mean these are subtle, and that's the whole point of the layering. It's the overall effect, not the individual elements, that you really want to show up. And I think I'll stick one in the middle. Now you notice I wasn't really putting them in any kind of formation here. Okay, and just clean off my rubber stamp. I'm infamous for not cleaning my rubber stamps, but apparently Tim himself, in the videos that I've seen, he's not very good at keeping them clean either. But being water soluble, they come off very nicely. Now, I also have this one, and I really like this one, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I want to use? Do I want to do the walnut again, or do I want to go with the black? Because I've got another one here that I want to do the black because I want it to stand out more. So I think I might give this a shot with the fire brick red. Let's just see what happens. Oh yeah, that's not bad. I don't know if that's camera's picking this up or not, but I'm just sort of using it as a filler. And again, I'm not really planning exactly where this is going to go. I'm just stamping it wherever. Yes, I'm liking that. Maybe one more down here. Okay, so I've got that. Let's just give a little wipe off here for a second. Alright, that's good enough. Okay. The next one I have is actually, you've seen it in one of my samples, it's his gear one. I love this one. But this time, I think I'm going to try it with Distress Stain, because you can use Distress Stain on these as well. Now the thing is, you're not going to get as sharp an image as you would with the ink pads. So I'm going to take black soot, and I'm just going to go all over the stamp with this. And let's see what happens. Now I like to hold it down a little bit more just so that the paper can absorb the color when you're using the stains. Oh, I'm liking that. That came out pretty sharp. So let's try this again. And you know, if you miss a few spots on the stamp, it doesn't really matter. Let's do one down here. Now you notice I tend to lean towards putting even number of things on. And I was told a long time ago you should never do that. You should always work in odd numbers because visually it makes it more interesting. So odd number, here it is. Okay, I'm liking how this looks. So let's clean up my stamp here. Okay, now I have a word stamp here. I think this one says, this is again Tim Holtz, every possibility begins with the courage to imagine. Okay, well I had the courage to show this to you. I don't usually do videos where you see me actually doing the creative process live, but I am doing this. So color, I could go with black again. Alright, what shall I use? Let's try the yellow. Let's the wild honey. Let's see what happens. I don't know how well this is going to show up. I don't want it to stand out any greater than the other things on the page. Yeah, no, you can't see that one very well, so don't think the wild honey is the best bet. Distress walnut. Let's try that. That's not really showing up either. Alright, so I guess I'm going to have to go with... Now I could go... Okay, why not try the Distress Walnut Stain? Let's see how that works. Ooh, that's different. Now notice that that looks more like a watercolor. It's kind of blending in, but I kind of like that. Again, because this is going to be a background paper, parts of it are going to be covered up with, you know, your pictures, your embellishments, whatever. So I'm just stamping it here. I don't really care that it's kind of got a watercolor look to it. It's kind of bleeding into the paper. Should I do one more? Yeah, I should do one more. I'll do one more. See, once you get going with this, it's addictive. I'm going to just put one over here, kind of off the page. And I'm just going to stamp off a little excess here, maybe a little there, maybe there. Okay, I guess I'm out of ink on that. All right, now let's wipe off the stamp a little bit. Okay. And let's give it a bit of a dry. So we've used quite a few different layers. We've used several different products, just kept building on each one. And I'm liking how this is looking. But you know, now I'm going to get dangerous. I could stop here, and I probably should. But I want to try one more little experiment here. I want to give this a little bit of shimmer. And one of the stains, he has several of them actually, that he has created are the metallics. And the metallics have a slightly different formula than the other stains and mists. They have a bit of a shimmer to them. So I have right here a bottle of antique bronze. And you can see it's got some shimmery stuff in it. So you want to give this a really good shake. And you can hear there's a mixing bowl in this. So mix it up well, because it does have a tendency, I guess, to settle out a little bit. Now, I'm not going to use a whole lot of this. I just want to see, just give it a little bit of shimmer. So here we go. Okay, enough. Hold back. All right, I'm going to give this another dry. Okay. I think that's got it. All right, now I don't know if this is going to pick up on the camera, but I'm going to see if I can get the light to reflect. Can you see a little bit of shimmer down here in this corner? I'm trying to keep the shadows off. It's probably not that easy to see on the camera, but there is shimmer to it. I've still got a couple of little wet spots here. The metallics take a little longer to dry because of whatever's in the formula with those. And I mean, you could let it just dry, air dry, that's not a problem. I'm just doing this to speed up the process a little bit. Okay, that's enough. Okay, there you go. Now, what I would do, and I'm not going to do this, take time on the video to show you this, but what I would do next is I would cut this 12 by 12 down to 11.5 by 11.5. Then I would distress with either the walnut stain or the black soot ink pad the edges all the way around just to give it a bit of a frame, and then I'd mount it using double-sided tape to a piece of 12 by 12 black cardstock. That's what I did with all of my samples. I just like the way it frames it a little bit. So that's how I would finish that. So basically that's how you do a background using Tim Holtz products, all layered. If you have any questions, just email me. I'd be happy to answer them, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.